Welcome back to the channel. Today, Forlorn Hope's Masterstrike. So I've actually recorded this already, but I did a thing and it recorded weird echoey, so I'm going to try it again. This is one of the two last songs I've got to record for the Forlorn Hope series to get through that first album, which is, of course, Forlorn Hope is this band that's released an album about the Napoleonic Wars, so still to go through it. If you like this, there's a whole playlist called, I think it's called Forlorn Hope. So this is Masterstrike, about the Battle of Salamanca, where Sir Arthur Wellesley, the Duke of Wellington, defeats, I can't remember his name, the French army of 40,000 in 40 minutes is the slogan. It's a bit different to that, but it's a pretty nice display of Wellington's skill. So let's have a listen. So, as with all the songs, they got a bit of a lead in and they got a bit of a lead out. I know nothing about music, so I can't comment on the actual music of the song, but I'm just here for the lyrics, that's all. Marmot, I knew it was Marmot, I didn't want to say it and didn't want to get it wrong. I love the by God, that classic Victorian and Napoleonic and a little bit earlier. It's a very English expression. So the stalemate, this is 1812, 1812 or 1813, in that period. The Peninsular War has been going on for at least 4 years now. The British come out, they win some victories, the French maneuver around them, or the British lose something, and they have to retreat. And this is part of another British emergence from Portugal coming out, and after the Battle of Salamanca, the British will actually retreat, even though they won. And then they'll come out again. And so there's this thing in the Peninsular War where it's not like lines as we would expect in a modern war, where the lines move and sort of come back. Armies move in, other armies move in to meet them. Things happen. Armies withdraw. Armies can't pursue. You've got a whole bunch of stuff going on, but it's not a grinding campaign where they're smashing into each other. It's a lot of back and forth. So Wellington and Marmont are actually near one another behind these two ridges, and Napoleon knows that Marmont is behind this ridge. Marmont thinks that Wellington is retreating back because there's another army coming around to cut him off. So he assumes he must be retreating. And Wellington knows that Marmont knows that he thinks he's retreating, so he instead of having a rear guard, he just launches an attack. There is a Spanish unit, I think it's a battalion or maybe a brigade, it's almost certainly a battalion, in a fortified position next to like the only bridge the French can use. So Wellington's got a nice little trap here for Marmont. So let's see what happens.
Time to seize the day. I will see this settle. Stand in Pakenham and drive them to the devil.
Pakenham will be familiar to some of you Americans as the person who took over from Ross as a sort of British commander of the army in North America after Ross got killed. He was the one who is most famous for the attack on New Orleans, where he got killed. Pakenham is leading 3rd Division, and when I first heard this, I'm like, 3rd Division is Picton's division. Why is Picton not leading 3rd Division? Then I remember this is a couple of weeks after Badahov, where Picton gets pretty messed up. He gets pretty shot up bad. Although he got lucky because his 2IC was killed and another divisional general was also killed. I think it was Crawford, was killed at Badahov. So Picton got pretty badly wounded and sent home to rest. And, of course, Pakenham got promoted up. Pakenham was the brother-in-law of his sister married some obscure guy who'd done a bit of foreign military service and was an MP for East Sussex called Sir Arthur Wellesley. So he was Wellington's brother-in-law. He was on his staff, he'd fought in campaigns before. And so he was put in charge of Picton's division sort of temporarily until Picton could come back. He was killed at New Orleans. There's a story out there that he was killed by a sniper, but he wasn't. He hit by grape shot a couple of times. And Wellington didn't take that well, obviously. And anyway, there's a big story about that. Crawford took the blame, and then Crawford's family got involved in a scandal where they were trying to defraud bonds. And then one of them goes overseas and liberates a bunch of South American countries and comes back to the British Navy. And anyway, it's a big story there. But Pakenham is the same Pakenham as in America. I ramble too much. Sorry. So shatter the line. We sort of think of the French marching in columns all the time, and indeed, I mean, obviously marching columns, but attacking in columns. But at Salamanca, one of the things the French did was they took a division and they put 7 battalions in a 3-rank line with squares on either end on a big hill. And the British just threw divisions at it, and they couldn't break through because it was just uphill against a 3-rank line, 7 battalions. That's a lot of men. What's that, 600 and something? We'll say 600 times 7, that's 420, 4,200 men, all shooting at once. And then you've got guards on the flanks in square. And the Portuguese went up it and they lost like 500 men in one attack, which is not good. You can't really replace those losses easily. That's, of course, assuming full strength French, which obviously they wouldn't have been. So yeah, we'll shatter that line. No, not really. You can't really break a line in a Napoleonic warfare. That's holding a hill with equal numbers. It's really tough. And ironically, that's kind of the way the British were used to fighting, was lines against columns, and now you've got the French using a line in a specific circumstance. So it's not like the French were incapable of using lines. And just because you sometimes do it and you sometimes don't, doesn't mean it's your thing all the time. So the French did use lines at some places, and this is one of them.
My Masterstrike, our victory shining bright, a lightning fight. My Masterstrike.
I made it sound really bad there. I should clarify. That was like the rearguard action of the French where the rest of the army retreated. It was a masterstrike that Napoleon, Wellington, got a strong right fist in the 3rd Division and just punched the French. They attacked them in column at some points. As in, while the French were still in a march column, an infantry division suddenly comes over the ridge. Because you don't poor scouting on the French part, you know. So division appears, shreds a French column. French column gets ready to attack. Suddenly, cavalry brigade comes over. 3rd, 4th, and 5th Dragoons suddenly appear. So you start forming columns, start forming squares, and then you get shredded by more infantry attacks. It's really a combined arms assault, which is really cool, actually. And Wellesley just has a giant right fist, smashes into the French in a masterstrike, which then collapses the French, and then he managed to send reinforcements into his centre and just push, believing the whole time that the Spanish were there like the cork in the bottle, and he would just squeeze the French. Unfortunately, the Spanish just disappeared. They left and didn't tell anyone that they had left, which, of course, is classic Spanish Peninsula War behaviour. The Spanish are the most unreliable troops. Every time there's like we're going to put a Spanish blocking division, they don't do the blocking division stuff. They don't. This is a blocking battalion. They can't even do that. It's like, okay, Spanish, you just have to stand there, and they go, see, and then just wander off. Not to say the guerrillas weren't a nice, useful fighting force, but the regular Spanish that were left didn't do much help to the British, the Anglo-British, Anglo-Portuguese army, which was the 3rd Irish. Anyway, so the Portuguese were, of course, involved in every British action, and here they got sort of massacred going up that hill. But, those Spanish, I'm rambling too much, sorry. Portuguese good, Spanish unreliable is the thing of this. And this really was an awesome battle. This is one of those pet peeves I have when they say, well, Wellington is the master of the defense, but, he can't do any offense. It's pretty clear offense here. Bait the enemy and pounce on them before they're ready to fight. That's kind of pure offense. It didn't help the French that Marmont and one of his senior aides was hit by artillery basically as soon as the battle started. So the French were without a leader for the first sort of hour. So divisional and corps commanders were trying to deal with things on their own without a unified army structure, because you don't know that your leader's been killed. Or not killed, he was wounded, but you don't know he's been wounded because you don't get any report that he's been wounded because there's no one to send it to you because everyone's panicking. So yeah, the French got put into pretty bad disarray. I think 5 divisional commanders were wounded on both sides, 3 British, 2 French, and then the French commander-in-chief was wounded. So that's another one. The whole generals never get killed or wounded. Well, here you go. There's 5 for you. Plus Picton's at home recovering after Badajov, where 2 major generals and higher were killed. Pakenham will be killed at New Orleans, and Ross was also killed, along with MacDonald, his 2IC, in Canada in the same battle. So it's not in New Orleans, in a battle in Canada. So it's kind of, that's a big pet peeve of mine that I won't go into. But yes, officers and generals were getting killed in these battles, or severely wounded. Okay, so the British attack, this is not, ignore the line, that happens at the end. The British attack, they force the French back down off this ridge and bayonet charge them. They get thrown back initially when they attack the hill. They come in with bayonets and they deal with it. Okay, enter the Dragoons. So we think of Dragoons, maybe you don't, but in the century before this, Dragoons were troops that rode into battle and fought on foot, what we would call sort of, think Australian light horse in the First World War, or, mounted infantry is probably what we'd call them today, where your job is to drive up and then dismount, like a motorized infantry in World War II. You don't fight from the back of your truck, you dismount. By this period, Dragoon just means guy on horse with sword. Light Dragoons and Heavy Dragoons for the British meant light cavalry and sort of medium cavalry. That's a whole other discussion. What is the difference between the different cavalries? I generally think of heavy cavalry as having some sort of breastplate. That's just me. The British just saw light and heavy. They didn't worry about mediums. What are lancers then? Are lancers, Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. So it was the 3rd, 4th, and 5th Dragoons. Just think medium cavalry. So guys with swords who were designed to charge, as opposed to skirmish cavalry. I will point this out. What's the difference between a light dragoon and a hussar? Is expense and money. That's all the difference. It costs a lot more. I should have my book. What's it called? Napoleonic War Games in Miniature or something. Fascinating book full of all these cool stats. And one of them, it goes through the difference in expenses between outfitting a Napoleonic light dragoon versus a Napoleonic hussar for the British. And it literally is just money. It looks cooler. It's the definition of just, it's like buying a DLC for a skin pack, basically. That's all it is. You just get a cooler, you get the police with the which is a little jacket. You get the big mustache and the gold on everything and the big hats. The British used hussars. In the middle of the Napoleonic Wars, they sort of started using them. French had them for a while, that sort of thing. They were a Hungarian thing, I believe, that just dashing, crazy light cavalry troops that are meant to be super, super daring and brave, and the suicidal types that just sort of charge in and do nothing and then rape everybody after the battle and steal everything. That sort of thing. They're the young men of the cavalry who just ride around being crazy and heroic and that sort of thing. That's the hussars. So the British use them a little bit, but here we're talking about medium cavalry. But I just wanted to mention that there is a difference between them, and it's just money and mindset. Not too relevant to Salamanca. That was a bit of a tangent.
My Masterstrike. A victory shining bright.
Nowhere in the song does it mention the word Salamanca, so it took me a while to figure out what this was actually talking about. But I got it. I got it.
Masterstrike.
Just while the musical interlude is playing, 2 eagles were captured at Salamanca. I wish I could tell you the regiments or the people, but I do these sort of off the top of my head after a little bit of reading. But yeah, but 2 French eagles were taken. Obviously, no British eagles were lost. British colours were lost. Just none of them were lost in the Peninsular War. Yeah.
The hammer will fall with the power of my call. I will conquer them all. The day will be mine when I shatter their line, and the victory will shine. My Masterstrike.
We'll leave it there because it just sort of fades out. So that's Masterstrike. Masterstrike is one of the songs in the album Forlorn Hope by the band Forlorn Hope. If you like it, check out the rest of the songs in the playlist. And if you want to hear it without me chattering over the top, you can find it on YouTube or Spotify, or you can buy the album. I think they have merch too, which is pretty cool. Masterstrike. I keep saying Napoleon when I'm in Wellesley. That's because I'm just about to record the Napoleon song they have. Anyway, about Wellesley's victory over Marmont at Salamanca. Salamanca is a victory for the Anglo-Portuguese. However, they have to withdraw because another army is coming around to the south. That's why Marmont thought they were retreating in the first place, because this other army was coming to cut them off. They retreat back over the mountains that separate Portugal and Spain, and then they'll come out again for a big final hurrah after. So, this is the sort of end of this invasion, and the British are withdrawing on a success. So, we'll have to see what happens in the next album. Maybe they'll continue, maybe they'll go for something else. So, thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful day.